Good Shabbos, everyone. You know, in Israel, thank God, they've managed to vaccinate most of the population. As of February, anyone over 16 is eligible for a vaccine. And while most people went to the vaccination sites, they're having trouble getting all the young people vaccinated. They just don't want to come. They couldn't be bothered. They're too busy enjoying life. So believe it or not, in places like Bnei Brak, they started to give out food, cholent, kugel on Thursday night if you come to get vaccinated. And in Tel Aviv, they started giving out hummus and pizza and falafel to anyone who comes to get vaccinated. But now in Tel Aviv, they really raised the bar, literally, no pun intended. They set up a mobile vaccination in one of the hottest bars and nightclubs in Tel Aviv. And with your shot, meaning your vaccination shot, you also get a shot of whiskey to go along with it for free. You know, in this week's Torah portion, we have the construction of the Mishkan and all of the vessels. And perhaps the holiest vessel was the Ark, which contained the tablets with the Ten Commandments, which sat in the Holy of Holies. And of course, that's the place for the Ark, the Holy of Holies. If you want to study Torah, you come into a holy space, like a synagogue, a sanctuary, a place where you're close to God, where you could focus and concentrate and be removed from the distractions of the world so you can engage properly in the study of Torah. However, we know that all of the vessels in the tabernacle were portable because they had to transport them from one place to the other. And there were rings with poles in the sides of the altar and the showbread table. And when they needed to transport it, they would put the poles in the rings and carry it to the next location. However, when it comes to the ark, which contained the Torah in it, similar to the arks that we have in our synagogue, the Torah gives a very unusual instruction. And it says, "B'taba'ot ha'aron yiyu habadim lo yasaru mimenu." The poles shall remain permanently fixed in the rings of the ark. They shall never be removed. Which means even if the Jewish people were staying in a location for weeks, months, or even a year, they could not take the poles out of the rings on the sides of the ark. They had to remain permanently fixed to the ark. And the question is, if they're unpacking and they're settling in a place for a long period of time, why keep the poles, which are only meant to be transporting the ark, in the side of the ark? And one of the very powerful answers, which is so true to Jewish history, is that the Torah is telling us in the construction of the first sanctuary that always keep the poles in the rings of the ark. Why? Because you have to remember that the Torah is portable and transportable. Yes, the Torah is in the ark, in the synagogue, in the tabernacle, in Jerusalem, in the Holy of Holies, but that's not its only place. At a moment's notice, Jews were always forced to go from one place to the other, and they had to know that as long as they took the Torah with them, they had a portable homeland wherever they went. Whether Jews built homes for God, sanctuaries, synagogues in Palm Beach or anywhere around the world, God traveled with them. As long as they had the Torah to turn to for guidance, for inspiration, to learn how to live their lives and taught it to their children and their grandchildren, Judaism lived on wherever Jews found themselves in the world. And perhaps that's the message of the Torah. And the message goes one step further. There are those Jews that will come into the synagogue and learn Torah and engage in prayer and Torah study and connecting with Hashem. But there are those Jews that just won't come. And therefore, just like in Israel, you got to raise the bar and go to wherever you find the young people to vaccinate them and motivate them and inspire them and even give them some kind of an incentive to get the shot by giving them a second shot for free of drink, of alcohol. So too the Judaism and the Torah is teaching us that yes, the proper place for the Torah is in the synagogue, but the truth is that the Torah can go anywhere. And therefore, if you cannot bring a Jew to the synagogue, bring the Torah to the Jew wherever they find themselves. Be ready to move, to go, to travel, and bring Judaism and the Torah and the light of Torah to every Jew wherever they may find themselves. While we're enjoying this beautiful day in sunny South Florida, our heart literally breaks for the people of Texas, who have suffered so much devastation, and because of the tremendous snowstorms, they've lost power, people sleeping in shelters, sleeping in furniture stores, old people living in apartments without heat, 30, 40 degrees. There's a shortage of food, of supplies, and of course everyone is trying to help the people of Texas. And the Jewish Federation of Houston in the midst of dealing with the pandemic, is now dealing with a second crisis and has set up an army of volunteers bringing resources, food, shelter, and other means of support to the people suffering in the greater Houston and in the greatest Texas area. But most fascinating, a wonderful organization that is run by a friend of mine in New Jersey, Bikur Cholim of Lakewood, set up a operation where they cooked literally hundreds and hundreds of trays of food for Shabbos, entire Shabbases, and they sent out van loads of food with drivers last night, or I should say yesterday in the afternoon, traveling to Texas to make it there on a 24-hour trip to deliver the food before Shabbos. This is the message of the Poles in the Ark. A Jew has to be ready to go and bring Torah, loving kindness, generosity, Yiddishkeit, kindness wherever they need to go on a moment's notice. Keep the Poles in the Ark. When a Jew is in need or any human being is in need, be ready to travel, because the message of the Torah and the warmth and the inspiration of the Torah wasn't meant to be kept secluded in the Holy of Holies. It was meant to go forth and illuminate the entire world with the light of Torah and the light of Judaism. While we sit here in sunny South Florida, it is our responsibility to go online and make donations, whether it's to the Jewish Federation of Houston, whether it's the Bikur Cholim of Lakewood, or the countless other organizations that are helping those who are in terrible need. By the divine kindness and grace, we find ourselves in sunny Palm Beach, but our hearts go out to those who are suffering. The least we could do, and the least the Torah wants us to do, is bring our loving kindness and our care and our concern and show it to each and every person who is suffering during this crisis. May we only know of health and happiness. Wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom.